Okay, is everybody ready?
Yep.
Okay, I will call this meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance, please. Director Duncan, you want to lead us?
Sure. I don't know if you can hear me from standing up here, but let's go.
We see your belly.
Can you see my belly? Isn't that lovely? All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the
and to the
republic
republic for which
for which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one nation under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
For all. Well, I can't wait till we're all doing that together in person.
Oh,
Sounds a whole lot better in person.
this is not going to work online.
Okay, roll call, please.
Director Sewell,
Here.
Director Grasha,
Here.
Director Duncan,
Here.
Vice President Martin,
Here.
President Wright.
Here, I'm.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Thank you. I'm going to do the invocation. I kind of missed it there, but anyway, we ask the Heavenly Father and thy infinite wisdom to guide the members of this board in such a way that all of their thoughts, endeavors, and decisions will be made for the betterment of the entire community. We also beseech thee to protect our country and our people from all conflicts, both foreign and domestic.
Amen.
Amen. Okay, thank you. Rules of procedure, Mr. Pinckney.
Yes, according to the rules of procedure adopted by the Board of Directors, all notice meetings are conducted using Rosenberg's Rules of Order as a procedural guideline. Directors should refrain from responding directly to public comments at meetings of the board. The president of the board presides at all meetings and decides all points of order and procedure during meetings. The president is responsible for the maintenance of order and decorum at all board meetings. No person should be allowed to speak who has not first been recognized by the president. All questions and remarks should be addressed to the president as a presiding officer. No member of the board should speak more than once upon any one subject until every other member of the board wishing to speak on the subject shall have been given an opportunity to speak. No board member shall interfere with the orderly progress of a board meeting. In order to ensure the orderly progress of board meetings, the board president regulates the amount of time to be dedicated to a particular agenda item.
Thank you. Dora, do we have any public input? Anybody for public input?
No, ma'am. No members of the public present to make public comment.
Thank you. COVID-19 update. Art, any updates from Thursday?
There was nothing really that has changed since we talked to you last Thursday. Actually, the numbers at Eisenhower are down. And I think I shared all this with you on Thursday. I mean, I'm deciding at what point do we, say, okay, everybody's had the opportunity to get vaccinated, and we need to sort of consider slowly and carefully moving back into a normal operation. And I don't think there's been any real major developments, even nationally or statewide. I think the same deadline of June 15th is still in place. So that's all I really have to say. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question real quick to Arden on that. To what extent is Cal OSHA going to be? Do we have to get their approval in order to go back into having all employees back at work, full staff, or not? I know there was some issues involving staff with respect to attending events, and we never did get a clarification on how that impacts them returning to work in general.
I think a quick answer, and maybe JP might want to respond, but no, we are not absolutely held to or to any orders, I suppose, that Cal OSHA gives us. They of course can fine us and do a number of things, but I don't anticipate that'll happen. They do have recommendations out there, and we want to do our best to follow those recommendations. And one reason is that we are all anxiously awaiting the potential to be reimbursed for some of these COVID related, costs. And so we want to make sure that we have, let's say, checked every box. But I don't know, JP, do you have anything that you want to say with regard to that, to add to what I said?
Well, the district's always been an essential service provider throughout COVID because you're providing essential services. And, that if I don't know what the staffing situation is right now, but the district can bring its employees back to work. We just have to, do so and follow guidelines that have been established through the CDC and OSHA.
What about attending events?
There actually is advice on that. And so I'll have to look at the issue of attending events, employees attending events.
Yeah.
Do employees typically attend events? Are we talking about seminars, that type of thing?
Fundraisers, public gatherings, things like that.
Yeah. So there are some guidelines on that, and I'll provide that to Arden.
Okay.
I think, we're at the point where, the vaccine seems to be a pretty powerful element to this whole thing. So, a lot of what we do might hope or will hopefully sometime in the future be related to that. So we can move forward.
I have a couple things on this. I noticed incidentally that MWD is going to stay out until August. Just a little point of reference there. Also, I think that we've gotten a lot of mileage out of having these meetings recorded on Zoom, and I wonder when we go back if we're going to lose that option. And the quality of this has been very good for the community to be able to chime in and see what we're doing. And I hope that the board would see fit to maybe make a little adjustment to the budget that would allow for staff to pursue a system that would allow us to have a similar situation that we have here, but for when we're all in the same room together, so that the community can continue to have a quality experience when they're watching our board meetings, instead of the cameras that you're using now. I think are essentially security cameras that were installed to try to catch people doing things. And hopefully the board and the manager will see that it's a huge benefit to the community and to the district to see us doing our jobs properly. And I think that when we go inside, we're going to lose that. So maybe you could take a look at that. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment. Yeah, but and also right now we have a Brown Act waiver going on. So eventually, I don't know when, but eventually that Brown Act waiver will probably go away, and then we can't do it exactly the same as we're doing it now anyway. So we'll just have to see what the future holds. Anyway, thank you. Okay, any other comments on COVID-19, you guys? Okay, we will go on to employee recognition. Human resources report, which is the activity for the employees. We have Don Mathan has a field operations supervisor, 25 years. Manny Rodriguez, lead water production operator, 20 years. Those are the two that get a 25-year and a 20-year pin someday, hopefully. And then we have Lisa Pendleton. I saw her tapped in here. Hi, Lisa. Customer service representative, too, for 18 years. Wow. And Luis Santos, associate engineer for 4 years. Arden, do you want to say anything about these?
Well, yes, absolutely. I mean, everybody here, I've been with them for, the whole time I've been here. And wow, I'm starting to realize that I'm, right there with them. I didn't realize Lisa was here just 2 years before me, but let me start with Don, okay? And I'll have Matt say something.
Hi, Don.
Hello.
Hello.
And, Don and I go way, way back. He's always been in the meter shop. He always kind of wore two hats. He is a field service person, and he deals with the customers in the field. He and his crew do, and he also deals with the actual meter repair and maintenance and operations. And we've been through a lot. There was a time there where we would have people, it would seem like in waves, would request meetings with the board, and we would have to go back and look at their history and do a lot of things together. But I've always enjoyed, every time I see Don, I always have to talk to him about his dude ranch and his horses and how things are going. And he's always interested me, and Pap and we've even run across each other up in Pappy and Harriet's, up in Pioneer Town. And I can say that Don is 25 years is a long time of service, and I want to thank him. Matt, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Would just echo the same, Arden. Don's a great employee, gets along great with customers. Customers like and respect him. He's a big asset to that department, and we like having him around. Thanks, Don.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
He does. He has a patience of Job out there with the customers. So he's just perfect for what you do, Don. Thank you. Thank you for keeping
Don does just have a perfect sort of personality and way of communicating with them, and very valuable. Okay, thanks, Don.
Oh, thank you.
Manny has also been with us for a long time, and he's in water production. And I know one thing, lately we've been sharing a lot of stories about Brent, because that's when Manny and I spent a lot of time together, is when he was working with Brent and in the field. He's been in production, the one out there making sure that our water supply is safe, reliable, and again, I can't thank him enough. And I don't know if Danny or Bassam want to say anything. Did you want to say anything, Danny? No, Danny.
Arden, I'm sorry, I'm finishing up a phone call. My apologies.
You have anything to say about what we're talking? We were talking about Don and Manny.
We're talking about Manny. We just wondered if you had something you wanted to say.
Arden, I'm on a phone call. I apologize. I'm just trying to finish up a call.
I thought you got off of it.
All
Sorry.
right. Well, okay. Is Bassam on or not? Danny?
I am.
Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I'll more than happy to. Been fortunate enough to work with Manny for the last 3 years, and he is just he's a great guy, and two, he's just full of knowledge. He's great with the water system and the production side of the business. He is a pump guy and a well guy. So anytime we have any type of issues or problems out there with any of our facilities, he's our go-to, and he does a great job of it. And 25 years, 20 years, I'm sorry. That's a big milestone. So thank you.
He's been, working around those big motors, and the pumps is a safety risk. And Manny has been very careful over the years. And, just touching the wrong wire can send 400 volts through the system. And so we're all very careful. And Manny's been very, very good at trying to comply with the safety rules, and which is essential for that kind of work. Thanks, Manny.
Thank you, Manny. Okay, Lisa.
Lisa, oh, so much fun. When I first got here, Lisa was having Cody. And so I didn't get to know Lisa too well until I was here for a few months. and we've shared a lot of things together. She's been in several different positions, but we always drag her back to customer service because she's so talented in that area and such a good employee and such a dedicated worker. And we are so lucky to have Lisa. She's when I think of Mission Springs Water District and the family that we have here, Lisa is always one of those people that makes me think of that. And I want to thank you, Lisa, for that. And Matt might want to say something also. I don't want to avoid that.
Sure. Thank you. Lisa is a great employee, very valuable member of that team up there, a long-term knowledge of district operations, very good with customers, resolves a lot of customer issues on her own. Probably a future leader in the district, and glad to have her here, and very nice lady. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Victoria, you had your hand up? No, oh, you did, okay.
I
It
was doing the applause emojis for
No,
you.
your little hand, your little phony hand on the thing screen was up.
Yeah,
Anyway, okay. No,
the
is that what
applause
you were
features.
doing? You were clapping. Thank you. Okay, got it.
Lisa,
thank you.
I want to say also that Lisa, like Don, has a way with the public, and that's a talent that you don't run across that often. And I really want to say how much we appreciate Lisa's ability to handle all these things, because it's grueling sometimes, and Lisa does it with a smile. Thank you, Lisa.
And the customers noticed that too, Lisa.
Yeah.
They told me. Anyway. Thank you.
And lastly, but not least, is Louis, who I think is, I would say, the nicest engineer on the planet, for one thing. And I can't believe that he's been here that long. Frankly, it just seems like it was yesterday that we hired him. He's very professional and very courteous, and we've always had a lot of good conversations. And I want to thank him for doing the engineering work for us for the last 4 years. I'm assuming Danny might still be on the line. So Louis, I'll tell you, thanks a lot.
Is he? I
I'm
can't
good.
tell.
I'm
No,
back
he's
on.
okay.
Yeah, guys, I'm sorry. I'm back on. I apologize for that earlier. I just was finishing up a conversation.
You were
Art,
working? Darn. No.
no, I know, but there was a board meeting. I should have ended the call. So Art and I agree. He is a great guy. It's hard to actually upset Louis and get him mad. I don't think I've actually seen that happen. So that's a good trait. He is a very nice guy. Since he started, we have increasingly gotten much busier, and to keep up with the load that we're dealing with, it's been stressful. So he's done a great job. Welcome addition to the team. Thank you, Louis. Appreciate the 4 years.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Louis.
Thanks, Louis.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And that concludes it, Nancy.
That goes, okay. So make sure that Don and Manny get their pins.
We will do that at the employee appreciation event.
Oh, good. Okay, sounds good. Okay, action items are next. Item number 2 is going to be a public hearing on resolution 2021-05 to collect sewer fees on the tax rolls. So this is the time and place fixed to solicit the public's input on respect to Mission Springs Water District's making determinations to fix, levy, and collect sewer user fees for the fiscal year 2021 to 2022. Let's see, the process will start with the public hearing, will be opened, then staff will give their reports. Then we will have comments from the public, and then comments and decision-making from the board. All questions will be noted and will be addressed after all public comments have been received. The public hearing will then be closed and the board may have a discussion if necessary. So I will declare the public hearing open, and we'll do secretary's report, please.
Notice of public hearing was posted to the Desert Sun and the Desert Star Weekly on April 2nd and April 9th, 2021. As of this afternoon, there have been no written comments or protests on this item?
Thank you. Is there any public? I guess you don't have any public either. I take it there for
Ma'am.
comment. Okay, so I will dispense, I won't go for that. Okay, so we don't need to address any questions, so I will close the public hearing. Any board discussion on this item? I can see you guys, so just go. No?
You did
Okay,
skip the staff
None
report,
for me.
President
Did
Wright,
I? Where was that at?
at the
Secretary-
top of the second page.
Oh, Matt, that's why Matt's name was there. Okay, sorry, Matt. Matt McCune, staff report.
Thank you, Madam President, but nothing to add from the Thursday report.
Okay, thank you. That's why there was a parentheses around your name, I guess. Anyway, okay, so I closed the public hearing discussion if not from the board. I didn't see any. Okay, so roll call vote, please, for approval of resolution 2021-05 to collect sewer fees on the tax rolls.
We need to
Need a
start with.
motion in a second first?
Yes, oh, I'm sorry, motion a second, yes. And a roll call vote.
I'll make the motion then.
Second.
Director Sewell?
Roll call vote, please.
Director Sewell?
Yes.
Director Gracia?
Sorry. Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Director Duncan?
Yes.
Vice President Martin?
Yes.
And President Wright?
Aye,
Thank you. Motion passes.
thank you. Okay, item number 3, selection of districts and financial statement auditors. I'll turn this over to the general manager.
All right, I don't think Matt or I have anything additional to add unless Matt does. So we're here for any questions that you may have.
Any questions from the board?
I have a comment.
Okay,
You know, we, as a district and all districts going back to the beginning of time, have a committee, subcommittee process in place. Typically, something like this would be going before the finance committee for discussion and kind of trade out ideas on what companies, firms might be interested in the process and being a part of the process as these auditors and so forth are chosen, just like the board would be involved in choosing an attorney or a general manager. Since I've been on this board, there's never been a meeting of the finance committee, and this would be the appropriate kind of item that should go before that committee. And I think it's time we start observing that process and respecting it. And for that reason, I will make these comments and turn it back to you and be voting against this item.
okay, well, it was on our agenda, for Thursday, which was a full board. Instead of just a committee going over all of that stuff that you just mentioned, or at today's meeting, we could have done it also. So anyway, okay, I will.
Ma'am, we were not given any input onto what companies were being pursued and who had interests and why this particular firm was chosen. And after that fiasco that occurred at the meeting a few months ago, I would think that you would be alarmed that this would be coming before us for approval. This company, in my view, is less than honorable, and we should look elsewhere for this work. That's it.
Okay, do you have a report? Anybody want to do a report on this item? A quick one, Arden? No? About this 3-year contract?
The only thing I'm going to say is that the reason you don't have additional work is because most of this was done last year. That's what Matt is saying. Maybe Matt has something he wants to add, but this was done, this process we went through where we did vet all of the different individuals, and the competitive process was done last year with a 1 year with the ability to move forward with them after we have a 1 year trial run with them. Matt, did you have anything else that you needed to add there?
It was an abysmal failure, and going forward is an embarrassment to this district.
Okay, well, maybe you can tell Arden and what kind of failures you're talking about, not now, but in, later on sometime. It would be interesting if we could hear your comments, Steve, what you're objecting to. Anyway, okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the 3-year contract with Rogers and Anderson, Melody, and Scott to provide the financial statement audit for the fiscal years ending June 30th, 2021, 22, and 23, and authorize the general manager to engage the firm and to do all things necessary to complete the audit.
I'll make the motion. We approve that contract.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Director Sewell,
Yes.
Director Gracia,
No.
Director Duncan,
Yes.
Vice President Martin,
Yes.
President Wright.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 4, CV Water Counts Regional Conservation Grant Program. General Manager.
Nothing new to add, and we have Victoria here, and she can answer, and Victoria can answer, I think, most any questions you have specifically related to this. Nothing more than what we told you on Thursday.
Okay, thank you. So it's recommended to authorize the general manager to enter into a memorandum of understanding, an MOU, for the implementation of the CV Water Counts Conservation Grant Program awarded through Proposition 1, Round 1 for Mission Springs Water District Rebate Program. Entertain a motion. Or if you have any comments or questions, guys.
I'll move the item.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion on the second and a second on the floor. Roll call vote, please.
Director Sewell,
Yes.
Director Gracia,
Yes.
Director Duncan,
Yes.
Vice President Martin,
Yes.
President Wright.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item number 5, acceptance of the purchase and implementation of advanced metering infrastructure system project. General managers, anything else you want to say about this one?
No, it was a very successful project. We are complete. I announced last month that we actually had installed all of these new meters. And this is very advantageous to us for a number of reasons. So far, we've had a good experience with the new meters. So, no more than our typical issues that come up when we're in, the stages of working with new infrastructure. Everything looks great. So I don't know if there's any more questions, but we're here in case you do.
Board comments? Okay, hearing none, it is recommended to accept the purchase and implementation of advanced metering infrastructure systems, which is AMI, project as complete, and authorize the release of retention money held for Ferguson Enterprises in the amount of $41,417.66, 35 days after filing the notice of completion. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Any comment? I'd already asked that. I think I already asked that. Roll call vote, please.
Director Sewell,
Yes.
Director Gracia,
Yes.
Director Duncan,
Yes.
Vice President Martin,
Yes.
and President Wright.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Human Relations Committee report. Okay, so do we need a vote on this one? I was a little, or do we just leave it for a vote?
The action is just to provide direction on how staff should move forward.
Okay, that's what it says. So I wasn't sure if we voted on it now, though. Okay, so go ahead, Randy. What's the committee's suggestion?
All right, we kind of
Or
went over.
direction, I should say direction, sorry.
No, you're okay. We went over some of their requests last week. Their final request, the really only thing they're asking for is the opportunity to sell back accrued time from overtime, weekends, holidays, night calls, that kind of good stuff. They want the opportunity to sell that back more than once per year. Matt says it won't cost the district anything. It's minimum work on his part. Board president and I both.
Cap
Pardon?
of 40 hours. I
Yes.
believe it's a cap of 40 hours.
Right, all the other rules and regulations pertaining to it, remain in place. But both of the committee members, which was the president and I, agreed on this, and this is what we would recommend to the board, is that we approve their opportunity to
Okay,
sell
so
back time more than once a year.
okay, so what does the board have any other directions they would like to go in? Are they okay with this direction? Just because they actually need kind of a nod, I guess.
Yeah.
Anybody have any problems with this direction? Don't, okay, well, then it sounds good to me. Well, you guys have your direction, okay? We're
Thank
all
you.
going with the committee's suggestion.
Okay, we will adjust the employee manual to reflect that. Okay, thank you.
I would just ask one that you consider putting a limit to how many times. I would think that, I know that when I was in that an hour, I would have been in there every Friday looking for my extra $20. So I just think that putting a limit on it would be, might be a good idea, 4 times a year or something like that. But that's up to you guys, whatever you want to do.
President Wright, Matt McHugh has a comment.
Yes, Matt, where are you? There you are. Okay, yes.
I was just going to add, hopefully for clarification, that, we, our pay periods end every 2 weeks, and they have the option of getting paid for that time as opposed to banking it. So they have the option every pay period to not accumulate those hours. This is only for hours that are accumulated over time.
Well, thank you. That's a good clarification. Thank you. Okay, no, nothing else on that item. We'll go to a discussion items. Item number 7, Adman Corp Yard Building Update.
I'm going to turn that to Brian. I think he has something he wants to say, so we'll let him have the show. Brian.
Brian, you're muted.
There we go. Can everybody hear me and see my
Yes.
screen? Fantastic. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. This is my administration corporate yard building update. Activity since our last meeting on March 15th. Qualifications have been received related to architectural and engineering services. We received 16 submittals. The list includes a wide range of very qualified teams. Some of the teams included STK Architecture, who designed the Desert Hot Springs City Hall. We have Holt Architecture, who had been working with us on several of the renderings that we've provided to the board, and Ronu Clark Associates, who have, who designed the Palm Springs Unified School District and East Valley Water District. The next steps would be to select the most qualified consultant, negotiate scope and fee, and also a contract, bringing the contract to the board, which would be tentatively scheduled for May. Unfortunately, our other RFQ that was out at the same time, the real estate broker services, we received no respondents. Therefore, we reached out to our appraiser, Capital Realty Analyst, for a suggestion or recommendation. They recommended Desert Pacific, Paula Turner specifically. We reached out to her, received her qualifications. Her qualifications, she is working with Desert Hot Springs, the city of, as well as Riverside County, and we decided to move forward with her. Therefore, if we do have a need to purchase or to sell property, we will have Desert Pacific representing the district. Other questions that we've received over the past month were a property that we own on 2 Bunch Palms. If you can see my cursor here, this property is just west of Palm Drive, which Palm Drive goes north and south at this location. Just west of that, there is a property here that Mission Springs Water District has owned for a number of years. The property history, it is vacant commercial land. It was purchased from Riverside County through a tax default, property tax defaulted property, November 30th, 2004. The cost of the property was roughly $26,250. Of the acreage that we purchased this entire land that you see in red, I believe. What is available is the 11.4 acres here in the middle. We have since parceled out just under an acre for well 37, which is this corner along our west boundary. And then of course the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission, 6.5 acres on this side. So the amount of acreage that we currently own for this purpose or for this investigation was this 11.4 acres. It is currently in the FEMA flood zone OA, which by definition is 1% annual chance of shallow flooding, usually sheet flow from sloping terrain, which would be the terrain that's coming from the northwest to the southeast. You can see some of the washout as it goes across 2 Bunch Palms in this location. You can also see it as it veins off to the north here, and that would happen at an average depth of between 1 to 3 feet. This property has been looked at before back in 2005. It was Gillis and Associates completed a needs assessment back in 2005. Now keep in mind for reference, back in 2005, we were seeing more and more development activity. It looked like there was no end in sight. At that time, they projected our employee headcount to go from 44 up to 83 from 2005 through 6 through 7 through 8 up to 2021. A lot of economic uncertainty and turmoil happened in that 15-year period. Currently, we stand at 47 employees. Now, there has been a lot of increase in staff from a perspective of consultant use and things of that nature, so we could keep up with the development that occurred, but it has fluctuated over time. So when we start looking at a new building, we want to look at some of these historical numbers to see exactly how large should we make the facility, because we do expect to add staff in the coming years. This study, not only did it look at each department, we have general manager, we have finance, engineering, O&M, and wastewater. We also looked at boardroom, general parking, some common areas, and again, the head count. When looking the needs for the district back in 2005, we were looking at about 140,000 square feet of space needed. That comes to about 3.5 acres of space needed for a new building and corporate yard. Gillis and Associates also provided us with a layout of the site, a schematic, if you will, of what would it look like at this 2 Bunch Palms location. Now, granted, this area is roughly the 11 acres that we're now looking at or have available to us, and everything is spread out. You see employee parking in this corner, you see employee parking in this area. You have the building itself, which is actually wrapped around an open area. Here in the middle, you see the exterior doors here referenced in red. You see a maintenance facility up here. You see area for parking, area for parking, as well as a wash station, a refueling area, pipe storage, and things of that nature. It's very spread out site at this point. What would that look like with the topo, or with the orthographic? You see it located in here. And again, it's just outside of many of these veins that you see that I believe this was referencing some of the floodway areas that FEMA has, not the area that we're currently in now as of 2021. But again, this is the site you're looking at. It does not show the well facility that we have along the west property line. The significance of the difference in elevations and what we've had to do in the past As you can see, there is an incline here that goes uphill to our well facility. And you also see a building that's next, a cannabis facility that is just to our west. It is believed that if we were to develop this area, and what may have stopped us other than the economy back in 2005, is that we would be required to fill this area so we would eliminate any concerns of flooding and things of that nature. You see that the building is relatively high as it relates to the pavement. This is probably the best illustration of the difference in elevation. If you follow the top part of this fencing, you see as it goes back to the north that it keeps increasing several inches at a time. Excuse me. Once you get back to the back of the property, you see that there is a significant grade increase at this location where then the parking begins. So there is about 4 feet of fill that was added to this particular site. So knowing that we need roughly 4 acres, knowing that there's a potential that we would have to raise the elevation, what would the site look like if we were just to look at the 4 acres? Well, oddly enough, or interestingly enough, the 4 acres that we would be looking at it possibly if we built everything at one time or had to elevate everything at one time, it would roughly be a little bit larger than the building that's next door. This would keep us away from almost all of the different flooding areas that you see here, the veins and things like that, as it then crosses to Bunch Palm. It would also be tucked up along our west boundary. We would be able to incorporate some of the fencing that we already have around well 37 and take advantage of some of the rear end. What this rear end of the property? What we would be doing, or what would this extra cost possibly be? It would be $520,000 to raise that site based on costs that we've received, based on this well site, well 37, as well as some other well sites along this same wash area. We would consider this sort of a negative when you're looking at elevating a site of 4 acres in size to about 4 feet of on-site excavated compacted fill. This would be basically removing area or soil in this location and transporting it to this 4-acre site. We would then put rock channel protection similar to what we have in this northern boundary now. We would continue it to the corner of our property, then continuing south along this property here as well. There is some occasional odors that happen from this facility as well as some of the facilities around this 4 acres or 11 acres. But again, hopefully we can mitigate that both from our perspective as also working with the city to make sure that some of the odor controls are done at the cannabis facilities in general. There is a positive though in building on this site, and that would be that there would be no impact to our existing operations. There may be minimal impact to well 37 as we're doing excavation in this area, but it'd be very minimal compared to some of the other sites that we have looked at as far as the corporate yard where we have ongoing operations, as well as areas such as the building that we're in right now. That concludes my presentation regarding the 2 Bunch Palms, as well as bringing everyone up to date on what we've done in the last 30 days. Are there any questions?
Anybody have any questions? Randy?
This Gillis and Associates that gave us some renderings, is that the same firm that worked with us or brought us some renderings, what, 10, 12 years ago?
Yes.
Yes, back in
They also built
2005.
facilities down in San Diego and San Marcos and Escondido area, stuff like that? Yeah, okay. If we use, I'm still leaning towards the property we already own. If we took at least basically half the price of what it would cost to buy a much smaller property on Palm Drive and raised that piece of land, you know, the 4 acres, that's 520,000 versus at least $1 million to buy another property on Palm Drive that may also need to be raised.
It does. It's got some earthwork. It does need a lot of earthwork too.
Yeah. I understand it's in a floodplain, but you know, we can put parking lots and storage and stuff like that. It doesn't have to be elevated. The buildings, yes, obviously to get them approved. But I don't know the leanings of the rest of the board, but I personally am still leaning towards the 11 acres that we own. I think it would be more cost efficient We already own it, and we can actually start anytime. And that's in my opinion.
Okay. Who wants to say, anybody else have an opinion on that? Okay, Mr. Gray.
Yeah, okay. Could you put that picture up again of the, that was taken of the facility next door that was the photograph? I think it was taken off of Google Earth, maybe. Your estimation of a 5-foot elevation, a little further back. I think I want to see the front of it right there. There it is. So you've got a 6-foot fence along the front of that building. So that looks, it may be, you know, a little, the angle may be throwing it off, but that looks more like 10 feet of fill to me. And I've driven by it, and I know from the car, you're looking up to see the parking lot area. So I question the estimated 4 feet of lift to get the, and that raises questions about whether the estimate of how much that's going to cost to bring the grade up properly. It's just a thought. And the plans that you showed, I can live with maybe a little bit of elevation to the building over the parking lots. But I don't know how much. I would like to see, I know when they build down in some areas where there are sensitive neighbors, they'll force them to put up poles in the ground and then wrap a string around them with flags to show you where the bottom of the building will be and where the top of the building will be. Usually that's done to demonstrate the view obstructions, but in this case, it would be a demonstration of how far we're going to have to lift to get that a buildable lot, and a lot that would serve for generations to come. So I'm concerned about that. I would love to be able to build on 10 acres or 11 and a half acres, but I see serious problems here. And then I ask myself, well, what's this piece of land worth today? Because you got a really good buy on it. It's a great piece of land for commercial use, but I'm not, in my view, it's not the best that this district can do when I weigh against the future of water delivery in the Coachella Valley. I see this as a potentially an important facility for the region, not just the Mission Springs Water District. I can almost see more than just, I think you're estimating 80 employees. I could see the potentially many more than that if things continue down the path that they're going now. And so I suggest, and this is again, my opinion, because I'm looking at, 10 years down the road, that a premier facility would be called for and not an industrial building in a hole that because we happen to get a good buy on a piece of land. So that's just again my thoughts on this. And I'd rather see a first-class facility in an area that is respect. We're entering a time in American history where communities are going to be forced to choose between clean and affordable water and literally and law enforcement. The stresses on our communities, we need to demonstrate to the public that this is an important thing that this district is doing in the community. And one of the ways you do that is to put yourself out in the way that you want people to see you. And that is a building that people will look up to, a respectable operations center. And we can do that for a few dollars more than what it'll cost in the long run to make this a site. And I think that you might find out that it's not that much difference when you consider how much we can get for this piece of land. if somebody decides they want to build on it and cover the cost. But again, I expect to be outvoted on this all the way down the line, but I want the public to know that we may, anyway, you guys know what I'm thinking and everybody else does now too. So thank you for the moment that you've given me to speak on this.
Thank you for your comment. Director Martin, Vice President Martin, do you have any?
Yeah, I too would like the public to know that by utilizing property that we already own, we may be saving $500,000 of their water rate. So I'm very comfortable moving ahead with property that we already own, and I think it's in the best interest of our ratepayers. That's all my comment.
Thank you. Ivan?
Yeah, I do like the location there. It will be kind of the halfway point between the existing Al Horton plant and the new regional plant. So I do think its location is better than what it could be. And then when we do think about growth, these 80, 100, maybe 120 employees down the road, this 11 acres might be a lot better than trying to squeeze into some 3.5 acre or 7 acre area on Palm Drive. So I do think it gives us the flexibility to grow, whether we need to develop that all at once or not. I would like to see how we could get some more concise numbers on that amount of fill, on how much we need to raise it up and what that cost would be. So I'm not sure how much cost would go into getting some more firm numbers on that, but I'd be interested to see what it would cost to raise that up. Thank you.
I have to agree with Russ and Randy and Ivan on the location. I do think saving the ratepayers, it's more than $500,000 because we need to buy 2 pieces of property for the last property we talked about, which was 890,000 plus another 400 and some odd thousand. So it with, even if it's 500,000 for the dirt, which I would like to see that, because I'm not so sure. I'd like to see a good architect place something on that property and see what they come up with, because they have to deal with all the drainage and that stuff too when they're drawing that part. If you have a good architect, they can maybe come up with some good ideas. Anyway, so to save the ratepayers over $500,000, probably closer to $750,000, and I think it's a great location for the facilities. You don't have any residential per se around there. Eventually, when that becomes the full campus per se, you won't have to worry about starting up your vehicles and doing all that stuff, because the Conservation Commission, I believe, has almost all the other property around us besides the cannabis on that particular property. So I'm ready to go forward. I'm with Ivan. I would certainly like to know what it's really going to cost to put that pad up, and do we need to put the whole 4 acres up? So I'd like to know I'd like to have a professional bid on that one, I guess. I don't know how we would do that. Arden.
Yes, well, no, that would be, then what we should do is move forward with maybe some more specific plans as to how we would build out there for now. I mean, that would be the next step, at least I would assume. And then from there, you can get the specificity on the cost. Right now, we're just looking at this in generality, and might be fairly close, might be over or under. But I mean, the next step is to move forward with putting a design, I suppose, if you give us direction on that property, and see what sort of concepts we could look at and alternatives, which is what Brian has already done, is looked at. That's what we're in the process of doing, is selecting an architect and determining what we can do. Get some concepts.
Is Gillis still in business? Brian, do you know? I don't even know if they're still in business. The ones that did this drawing that we've all been looking at.
But
I do not know if they are still in business. That contract has been so old. I don't know that I'd feel comfortable reaching out to them because obviously their staff probably isn't the same staff it was back in 2005. So we do have people that have responded to our request for qualification. We will be bringing that back to the board, and that will start the process of start evaluating this, if this is the property that is chosen, how we want to move forward on this particular piece. Just for clarification, I don't feel that the elevation that we're talking about, the 4 feet, is based off of what we were required to do to protect well 37 on this property. So we feel pretty confident about the elevation. So, and we also based all our costs on those costs, not only at this location, but other places farther north than this, also in the wash, where we had to elevate our facilities and compact and bring things up to a specific elevation. But there is some, the one thing that we don't have is the economy of scale. These are small well sites, very confined, not 4 acres. So it is a very good possibility that the number is not, it could be less, it could be a little bit more, depending on the severity of the compaction and things of that nature of trying to keep things on site. So yes, I agree with what I've heard here. We do need to get a handle on those numbers, but we did want to provide you with at least an estimate based on what we did know. So that would be the first thing that we would do. We bring to you an architect and engineer proposal for your consideration, hopefully as early as next month. And then we would be able to then ask them or their engineering site civils to start looking at this particular location, bringing it up entirely 4 feet, and then seeing what the cost would be, and then deciding whether this would be the site or look at other alternatives.
I would like to see what they would, what whoever ends up beating the job would, instead of just throwing out that we want to raise the whole thing, just to see what their idea was. It might be to raise the whole thing, but I'd also like to see some different elevations might not, might be worthy of looking at.
The one concern that we have is that the flash flooding that occurs on these rain events is inconsistent. And if we have our facilities, let's say it's a bunch of parked vehicles there that happens during the weekend, we won't be able to recall all of our staff to move those out of harm's way. So that's why we're talking about raising everything. And if the picture that we show of our adjacent property that where they have their parking the same way, it's consistent to what we understand the risk would be in trying to only elevate buildings and things of that nature. You're putting there's a risk associated with those flash floods coming down the mountain as quickly as they do and washing vehicles away or damaging certain components.
Well, of course, yeah, we definitely, you're right. We wouldn't want that to happen, of course.
Right.
That's something, but that's something that I think that an architect and their engineer could tell us if that would be necessary or not, or whatever. That's what I'm saying. I don't know, but they would. Let's put it that way. And so I'd be curious to see how they would want to design it too, or what their suggestions were versus us telling them what we want. So that would just be it. Anyway, okay, well, and we'd also have you're going to have retention basin, probably the whole front, like the cannabis facility next door. Got to keep your stormwater on your property. So you definitely will have some retention basins. So the water will be, I would imagine the water will be funneled into the retention basins and in different places on the properties. Anyway, okay, well, you guys have enough?
Yeah, President Wright, go ahead.
Yeah.
When this property, I said I had another question and somebody said, go ahead.
Brian, did you have something else?
No, I was just saying that I saw that Director Gracia had his hand up earlier and I just wanted to make sure he got recognized.
Okay,
Sorry
okay,
about
thank
that.
you. Yeah, okay, Director Gracia.
Thank you. When this property was mentioned during the first set of discussions on this subject, it was dismissed by staff because of some issues with the some litigation perhaps, or there was a concern that one of the environmental that it was in a sensitive area environmentally. And I just wondered if that had been dismissed as a concern, or is that something that also might haunt us as we move forward with this? Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
No, not environmental, but.
Well, yes, that part of what Director Gracia is referring to is that when we joined the MSHCP, we had to commit a total of 60 acres to mitigate the projects that we had specified in joining that group, that plan. We have actually, the 6.5 acres that you are referring to here is part of our mitigation for the plant expansion at Horton. But that is all that we committed to at this site, which is why we have the 11 acres net, minus also the well 37 property. So that has already been, I mean, there was some confusion as that 20 acres there, or the 11 acres was also committed as part of the 60, and it's an option later on if we want to do that, but that hasn't actually happened. And we'll go back and make sure that all of those things are in place and that environmentally we're in compliance with what we committed to with the MSHCP.
Yeah, those are kind of the early stuff. That's also things, yeah, that probably should be done early too, is to make sure. And the city, you know, the city's the land use agency. So what does that entail too? Yeah. Okay.
I'm not done, man. One more
Okay,
point.
go ahead. Sorry.
Clarification. So the next, part of the very next step, maybe at the next meeting, we'll have some firm numbers on the property and an estimate on the cost. Because it seems to me that that's a big part of what, you know, the cost of building will be the same here or anywhere else. But the land preparation is going to be significant. And I just wondered how long we would have to wait to find out
that was kind of our direction. That was our direction to
Right.
staff, exactly what you just said. Okay, so I don't know, Brian said he would hope by next month, but
okay. All right, thank you.
Well, but you're going to probably select an architect next month.
we can do that still.
And then we can task them with, the first thing is to determine what sort of earth moving we would have to do. And then if not, then we can move to another alternative, if you decide to do that.
Right.
Am I correct there, Brian?
You are correct.
And I wanted to mention one of the responses for the request was the company that did the Palm Springs Unified. And I know on our tour, Brian mentioned the East Valley campus as well. Maybe that's something we could try and schedule a tour of before we pick a company to build. And after seeing the Palm Springs Unified, that tilt up where it's 2 stories, that might be another option to reduce the footprint to lessen the amount of fill dirt we need.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, they are, whoever we choose to be the architect, and they probably have their own engineer. I'm not sure how that, most do, but we'll see.
We will try to set up a tour.
Answer. Yeah. I don't know if we can get an answer on the dirt work before we hire an architect. I'm not sure. Don't think so, but maybe. What is it, Arden? Brian?
Well, no, I think we what we said was, methodically we should, I mean, the first thing we would like to do is to select an architect, and soon after that, I think we can task them with determining what those costs would be. And we'll also see if we can't schedule a tour.
I'd like to somebody who at least has experience with doing a water district, or at least have some experience on that too. We're a little bit different nature than school boards. I like the building's okay, but the whole footprint would be a water district, not a school district. So.
Well, I believe it's the same firm that did Palm Springs Unified and East Valley.
Is that the one that said East Valley too? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should go visit East Valley. Is that you were talking about, East Valley? I'm thinking.
Yes.
Oh, no, East Valley Water District. Sorry, I'm thinking
Yes.
East Valley, Coachella Valley. Okay, sorry. Got it. Get me straight here. Okay, yes, I agree, Ivan. Okay, so you guys have your, everything
Give
you
our
need?
direction.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Item number 8, Mission Springs Water District Regional Water Reclamation Facility. Update.
Okay. I've asked, oh, you want me to proceed, Nancy?
Yes, please.
Okay, all right. I've asked Steve to go over again today the timing of the bidding and the grant funding approval so that you know how tight this will be in August. As you know, even though we are proposing some work at Horton that will help us meet our demand, we need the additional capacity to this plant as soon as possible. I'm recommending that we move forward with the bidding and funding timeframes as Steve has shared with you last Thursday. But want to be sure that you understand how this could play out. Steve will share with you what is in place today. So far, there are no red flags or indication that we are going to have any problems. However, if that does happen, we have options, and Steve can go over those again today. We just wanted to add a few things to last Thursday's presentation, and we will get the details on how we expect this will go. And if you have any concerns, I want you to let me know. We can delay the bidding, but getting this plant online as soon as possible is our goal. I mean, we are at capacity at Horton, and fortunately, we're out ahead of it enough so that we can take one of the trains offline. But and we're doing some changes to that plant, like the cloth filter that you approved in the budget, and we're going to move forward with that. Those will help us with our capacity issues, but we're just trying to do everything we can to keep this project going. Okay, Steve, did you want to take it from there?
Yes, I would, General Manager. Good afternoon, President Wright and members of the board. I wanted to kind of share a lot of the same information that I shared on Thursday, but I want to kind of specifically drill down to make sure that the board is comfortable with us moving forward with bidding at this time. Our intention is to move forward with bidding at this time slightly ahead of getting our draft funding agreement and construction eligibility date from the state so that we can make up some timing for this plant. You know, if we look at the overall schedule for the project, we're still anywhere from 18 months to 24 months away from having this plant operational from today. So the way staff and we've spoken with the general manager about, we're trying to make our push now to start making up some of the time with the schedule slip. And now is a perfect time to do so. So with that, I'll share my screen. So similar to what we talked about on Thursday, is we're really approaching the bidding phase of the project right here. And what we're proposing is that we get out in May and June. It's going to be a 6 to 8 week bidding period, most likely 8 weeks, that we go ahead and bid the project in May and June. But what that means is we're bidding the project ahead of having a draft funding agreement and a construction eligibility date from the State Water Resource Control Board regarding our SRF application package. Now, there is no risk so far in bidding ahead of receiving the construction eligibility date. The concern, or what we just want to make sure the board understands, is that we would only have July, August, and September to award the project to the lowest responsive contractor to move forward on the project. So that really gives us, so again, shown here in yellow, we're expecting to receive our draft funding agreement and construction eligibility date in May and June. That still gives us 3 months of flexibility before we would need to award the project and understand what we're actually going to get from the State Water Resource Control Board. So as I kind of mentioned on Thursday, there is a potential that we would not have the final funding agreement in place right now, expected in July or August, before we would maybe need to award the project. And what we're really trying to show with this bar graph is that we not just have those 3 months to award the project, we have another couple months down here before we actually have to break ground and start actually making payments towards the construction of the project. So we want to make sure that the board understands we're not asking you today, you know, 100% are you willing to award the project ahead of having the final agreement in place with the SRF or with the state. What we're asking is, are you comfortable with us on our schedule to go ahead and move forward with the SRF and the bidding of the project on a parallel path. And you know, we're doing our best to make sure these timings line up correctly, but one may be slightly ahead of the other. I want to also note, I know I'm kind of throwing out a lot, but we've ran through this scenario multiple times. We've looked at the nuclear scenarios, what happens if this, you know, what happens if the SRF just, you know, goes away and for whatever reason at the 11th hour. While that's not expected, we have evaluated that scenario and come up with a plan forward should that happen. And we don't really need to, I'm happy to go through those scenarios, but today what we're asking for is, this is what we've laid out. This is a result of our ongoing discussions with the state, and we're asking for your, not necessarily approval, but just your comfort level in moving forward with what's proposed to bid the project now and get out ahead of the, or get on a parallel path with the SRF program.
Okay.
To add a bit to what Steve is saying is that, you know, the way these usually work, and you know that we've gotten a lot of these grants from the state. We usually can feel very comfortable with the draft agreement. Normally after that, it's a formality that almost where we get the final, and we haven't never experienced any real changes in that time frame. And to date, we don't have any, like I said, red flags. So far, the staff, we know what the staff is recommending. We have a timing issue with the state board because they're going to go dark during May and June. So we can't get this in front of them during that time. Just happens to be that's how the timing lined up. Did I say that okay, Steve?
Yeah, and that's what we're talking about. We want to put this on get this bidding moving forward on the same 2-month period that the state's going to be dark. So as Arden mentioned, the draft funding agreement and construction eligibility date means that the staff and the management level have reviewed the project application. They've gone through financial consultations and legal consultations and confirmed that there are no legal barriers to a final agreement. There are no financial barriers to Mission Springs' ability to perform the requirements of the contract and pay back the loan and maintain the project over its useful life. So those are really the threshold criteria that we're working through now. And as soon as we have that, in essence, we're just waiting for it to route through the finance department. So we fully expect to have those boxes checked by the time we open bids at the end of June. And really what we're asking is we want to make up 2 months on the project timeline, a minimum of 2 months, and bid it now so that our bid opening coincides with getting that draft funding agreement and construction eligibility date.
So the draft funding agreement with the state includes the grants and the loan, SRF loan?
Yeah, it basically locks in what we're getting total grants and the loan rate. And it also locks in like I said, the construction eligibility date. So any dollars related to construction past that date, again, this is before the final funding agreement, we'll get a date. And it says basically sometime in June, anytime after that, you're eligible, 100% eligible for reimbursement for any construction related costs related to this project.
And that would be either the loan or the grant monies.
There's no.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Okay, because usually banks, they don't want you to start construction until you get your loan in place, but doing it through the SRF, I don't think that comes into play. So that's
but what they'll do is traditionally, when you get the draft agreement, that's usually the time frame that they use for the start of the eligibility. Did I say that right, Steve, again?
Yeah, and Nancy, I think to your point, that's what we're looking at. We're really not trying to start construction until we get that final funding agreement in place. And what I'm trying to show is we do have a little bit of flexibility, even if we do bid now or next week, in essence, that we still have some flexibility to not have to award construction prior to getting that final agreement in place. And even if we do, we have several contingency options in front of us that we could enact.
Okay. Well, I'm for it. I'm ready for that timeline. I think everything will be okay with the state. If not, Arden's got the phone number of the executive director of the state water
Yeah,
control board.
I do, and I will be on the phone
Miracle.
to her, if I sense anything's going astray. But so far, we've heard nothing but good news. So, let's just keep on. But I wanted you to be very sure you understood how tight this time frame is right
I have a question.
Okay, Steve.
Typically, there is a performance issues with contracts. When you go out to bid, you're saying you're going to, you're saying you want a start date on such and such a time, and you said you didn't want to consider not being able to perform. Well, what is the liability to the district if for some reason we're not able to perform and we've got a contract and that we have to buy ourselves out of? Is that a possibility? And if so, I think that we need to have legal counsel look at the documents and make sure that anything that goes out to bid says, hey, we're hoping that we get this financing in place. If it doesn't, it could be a delay, and that there will be no financial repercussions to the district if that occurs. It seems like that's something that a contractor wouldn't have a problem with having, although, if contractors need to be able to schedule as well, as much as the district is hoping for a fast approval process as well as construction process. The contractors deserve the same respect. So I'd like some assurance from council as to whether or not we can make those advisories to the bidders that this is a potential hiccup, and that they're not going to hold us accountable financially if they're not able to start at a particular time. I hope that makes sense. But if I was a contractor, and I was for many years, that's what I'd be looking at. Oh, you mean you don't have the money in the bank to get this going, or the financing in place, but you want me to put all this money into an effort into bidding? Well, I wouldn't even pick that envelope up. So there's it.
I think you're absolutely right. Nobody would. So anybody have an answer to that one?
Well, yeah, I'll let Steve answer that, but basically that's really, in a way, that's not. We'll have JP look at it, and we've really been evaluating exactly what Director Grasha has said. What we wanted you to know is that there might be one possible outcome. Of course, we've always budgeted for this plant, regardless of what the funding is. We've got to get this plant built. Number two, we are very sure that we're going to get some sort of funding on this, and the only issue is that we may have to basically upfront some of the expense with the option with the assurance that we'll get paid for it at a later date. But we may have to use our funds to fund some of the original, expenses. Steve, did I say that correctly?
Then we get reimbursed, correct? Yes. I see. Okay, Steve.
That is correct. The likelihood is if anything were to be spent out of pocket by the district, it would just be a delay until we could seek reimbursement until the final funding agreement is in place. But Director Grasha, to your question, we wouldn't be awarding the project until we had that construction eligibility date from the state, which says that you are eligible for the full amount of the SRF. We just need to route it for signatures in essence.
Well, if that's the case, then I'll on board 100%. I just want to make sure that we don't end up, and come October, September, that August, September, that we have to, we didn't get that, that 30 million. We're not, and then we're going to have to go to the other market and pay 6 or 8 or whatever percent. I think we're in an inflationary time where we're going to start seeing some real changes in those numbers that are going to be scary. And that's why I revert back to what I was talking about with changes ahead. Communities are going to have to pick between police and water. So I think we're there as a nation. So buckle up.
Yeah, that's a good point. But we'll try to be as careful, as cautious as possible.
Yeah, it's not like this is the first time you guys have gone out for bids and then got grant monies. And I mean, this is like, we do this over and over and over again. So I think they
Okay.
got it down.
I just, you're gonna see some of this going and, I wanted to be sure you were very clear. So I asked Steve to,
Thank you.
reiterate it. Okay, that's it. Steve, did
Okay,
you
thank you. Thank you.
No, nothing else to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, number 9, Regional Urban Water Management Plan update. Do we have anything for today? We did that on Thursday, right?
Yes, nothing more.
Nothing more today. Okay, the consent agenda. The consent agenda, it consists of items 10, 11, 12, and 13, which are approval of minutes, registrar of demands, making the connection financial assistance program, and board event approval. Is there any board member who would like to pull any one of these for discussion? Okay, seeing none. Dory, do we have anybody on the line for this item?
I think Director Grasha had a comment, President Wright.
I wasn't able to unmute fast enough.
Okay, I'm getting to it. I'm getting to us. I haven't called us yet. Wait a minute, Steve. Do
You
we
did.
have any
I'm
on
trying
the
to
line
back
for
up.
this?
No
Let me
public on the
find-
line, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Director Grasha, go ahead.
Just a question on 13 is, can I ask a question or does that have to be pulled?
You can ask a question.
Okay, so this is the 25th anniversary. This is not the annual fundraiser. This is an additional event on top of what you typically provide for yourselves with this organization. It's a worthy cause, but I know you guys take very good care of your little clique there with, so I would think that you'd be able to pay the $250 out of your own pockets. I know Director Martin's drawn down about 10 times what other directors on this board are in his stipends. And I think it's time that you start dishing out the dough to these organizations with your own money and not the district's money. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, I'm not sure. I just assumed it was the same event that we have participated in for the last several years.
It is. It is the same
It's
event.
It is.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, so I will entertain a motion then to approve the consent agenda, items 10, 11, 12, and 13.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion, a second. Roll call vote, please.
Director Sewell,
Yes.
Director Grasha,
No.
Director Duncan,
Yes.
Vice President Martin,
Yes.
President Wright.
Yes.
Thank you.
And
Motion passes.
And there's no compensation on, by the way, just to mention on that event for any board member. So thank you. Okay, correspondence.
You're misleading the public there, ma'am. You're misleading the public.
Item number 14 has a thank you letters in it. Everybody's seen those. And then we will go to, anybody have any comments on the thank you letters? I think we talked about them on Thursday. So we'll go on to director's reports of the upcoming events, which is page 125. Let me find it here. Okay, who would like to go first?
I can if nobody else wants to jump in, although I see Russ ruffling papers there.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I'm ready to, so whenever.
Okay, we'll start with Director Duncan.
Okay, I'll go quickly. The March 16th Desert Water Agency Board meeting. The only thing that really caught my ear there was in the manager part, he said there were some changes coming to the Sigma. Didn't go into detail, didn't say if they were admin changes, structural, financial. Didn't go into any detail, just that there were some changes coming online for Sigma. I don't know if staff has heard anything about that or not, but thought I would at least mention it to you. The other three events I have are the Aqua meetings. These were all three held by Zoom. And the one of them was, the speaker was Andre Monette, a BB&K attorney. And his presentation was the WOTUS updates. and how that's changing a little bit with the new administration. But there are also finding new toxicity levels in the wetlands, or the PFOAs and the PFAs, new lawsuits coming out about those. So it's going to be a never-ending cycle there. Jordan Smith talked about some new endangered species. None are coming off the list, but a few more are going on. March 31st, I was very hesitant to attend that presentation. It was the first 100 days of the Biden administration. The only reason I'm hesitant is because, okay, is it going to be a left slant? Is it going to be a right slant? You know, is it going to be an argument? Turned out to be none of those.
It was staff. That's why.
And it was new appointees. Tanya Trujillo, Department of the Interior. She talked about water and science is her thing. Bureau of Reclamation. Andrew Sawyer's coming in with the EPA. He talked about wastewater, how it's going to be handled, treated, graded, all sorts of good stuff. Gloria Green from the USDA Farm and Agriculture. I keep saying food, but it's Farm and Agriculture. Talking about their plans, what will change, what won't change, stuff like that. Turned out to be a very good presentation. Not at all big and scary like I thought it was going to be. And I think that's all I have on the, that's all the meetings that I have on there. So I try to go as quick as I can.
Okay, Director Martin or Vice President Martin, excuse me.
Yeah, March 2nd at a city council meeting, there's a presentation by CVAG Executive Director Tom Kirk on strategies dealing with the chronically homeless in the Coachella Valley. Russ Betts was appointed to be the representative on SCAG with an alternate, Jan Pye. On March 4th, Desert Valley Builders Association Legislative Forum. There was an update on their recent election on vacation rental restrictions. On March 9th, sat in for Director Duncan at the CVWD board meeting. He could not attend and received the majority of the time was spent on the report on the groundwater, covering topics such as groundwater elevation and monitoring wells, groundwater extraction, surface water use, change in groundwater storage. And they made the observation that since 2009, 2010, during the last 10 years, the groundwater level have increased by 11.4 feet. On March 16th, City Council meeting again. There was a LAFCO presentation overview. Edison gave a presentation on California Choice, and there was a affordable housing resolution in support of the organization called We Rise. March 23rd, Riverside County Board of Supervisors meeting. There was a big controversy surrounding two ballot measures, measures A and B, A being East Vale and B being in Cat City, dealing with vacation rental restrictions. And it turns out that the printer did not get the ballots mailed out even in the mail until the day before the election. And so 11,500 votes were not counted. So there was a big movement underway to not certify the election. But it was determined that even if 11,500 votes in those two jurisdictions went against the restrictions, there still wasn't enough votes because it passed overwhelmingly. So they decided to go ahead and certify the election. But they had problems with communicating whether there would be vote by mail and voting at the polls. Apparently they both were available in those two jurisdictions. And a lot of the public didn't know that. And there was also a problem with the printer who didn't get the ballots out. So it was kind of a cluster all the way around. Anyway, on March 24th, San Gorgonio Pass Regional Water Alliance Board meeting. They went over their San Gorgonio Pass groundwater sustainability plan. March 30th, Riverside County Board of Supervisors, the COVID update, and that took up pretty much the majority of the meeting. March 22nd, Cabot's board meeting, nothing to report there. March 25th, Big Hearts Award, the Rotary. Congratulations to Mark Vermeer for his accomplishment and his award, and also the promo that Mission Springs Water District put forth during the Big Hearts Awards. That was very professional. I'm very, very proud of those who were involved in doing that. Also, as far as a future event, 5:30 tomorrow night, City Council meeting at, again, 5:30, not 6 o'clock. That's when they normally give their presentations. There'll be a presentation thanking outgoing City Manager Chuck Maynard for his service. I will be attending in person. If anybody else would like to join me, bring your masks, and you'll get a chance to see the new City Hall. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Director Sewell, you don't have anything. So I do mine. I did the two Washington, D.C., 2 of the 3 speaker sessions. The one on March 17th. Randy did a pretty good job. I'll just read the write-up on him to begin with. The March 17th one was the Congressional Staff Panel that examined priorities of the 117th Congress. Topics included COVID-19 relief, infrastructure, recovery legislation, as well as climate change implications and catastrophic wildfires. Congressional staff from both the House and Senate were invited. Let's see, a couple of, they had somebody from the Army Corps of Engineers, Alexa Williams, who talked about workforce development, SRF funding, Job Protection Act, and the Word of 2020. There was Melanie Thornton, who was on the Energy and Natural Resources Committee, water conservation. She talked about water supply and the Water Smart program. Also discussed that day was Colorado River issues, the drought contingency plan, Salton Sea, the WIN Act extension. That's that loan extension for that, talking about extending that. WIFIA, they said at that time, still needs to be addressed. And actually what that means is most of the people that were talking that day, they'd only been on the job for about a month or two. And so they really hadn't had a chance to do too much of anything, but they were trying to still answer the questions and give a good presentation, which they did. And then the other date was the March 24th date. That one is joined a conversation with the Biden administration, as Randy said, to reflect the first 100 days. The panelists will include appointees from various agencies, departments that interact with and impact California's water management strategies, and topics such as nomination, climate change, and the Build Back Better initiative. The one guy that really stood out to me was Andrew Sawyer. He's the director of the Office of Wastewater Management at the US EPA. He deals with, and Randy had mentioned this, he deals with all the stuff we like to deal with, and that's the grant monies and the WIFIA and those SRF funds and those kind of things. He also has a program that he's looking at implementing, which were for disadvantaged communities, and where they will get the money the fastest to the people who actually need need it. That's the DAC communities. And the other one, SWIFIA, which is another one of those loan things. The State Water Resources Control Board has asked for money that they can dish out for that program. That was kind of interesting. Okay, other than that, that was it for that. So where's my agenda? Okay. Now we're going to go into closed session. No, we don't. Excuse me, director's call. No, I'm sorry. I got to back up a little bit. Events, reports. 16, general manager's report.
Thanks, Nancy. Only one thing is that I'm gonna probably come back to you next month with a request for forgiveness, but it's a minor issue, but we have to move forward. You approved in the budget to design these cloth filters, which is going to help us, like I said earlier, with our capacity at the plant and our ability of our ponds to keep the effluent perculating, and we're working daily to be sure that that happens. We went out for RFPs. We did select the TKE was not only the lowest bidder by 150,000, but definitely the selection that we had to move forward with the design. I'd like to get them started on that, so I'm going to go ahead and tell them to get started as soon as possible, because we just really can't wait, so we can get moving on this and get these filters in place as soon as possible. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Well, yeah, you had most of the agenda was your report. Our agenda was general manager's report, but it was very good. Thank you. Okay,
Madam
financial.
President,
Yes.
sorry, Director Grasha had his hand up for a question.
Oh, sorry, Director Grasha, I didn't see it.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to you and your staff on this situation. You guys, the report was fabulous to be able to fully understand the complexities of what's going on over there right now. And I want to thank everyone that's involved with that for the work that they're doing. I know that it's a grueling situation, and everybody's doing a great job over there, and this community thanks them for their efforts. And I'm glad to hear you're moving that project along with the filters, because that's going to be a big help, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Gershaw.
Okay, financial report.
Nothing more to report, I don't think. Do you, Matt?
No.
Okay, I don't see any hands of wanting to ask any questions. So we'll go on to district council report.
So we are going to have a closed session today. The first one that we're going to go into closed session on will be conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1. And that's one case, RIC 2003782, and that's the George Padilla and Sharon Marino versus Mission Springs Water District class action lawsuit. Tom Slovak's going to be joining us in closed session on that item. And then also we'll have an update on conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1, case number PSC 1600676, Mission Springs versus Desert Water Agency. I'm not sure, Arden, if we're going to go into closed session on the 7.51 acres. Are we going into closed session on that, since we covered that issue in open session today, the location?
Yes, no, I don't think we have anything additional that we need, unless no, we weren't planning on, you mean on the property?
Right.
Yes, no, I don't
Okay.
think we need to go into closed session.
So those will be the only two items that will be in closed session on today.
Okay, thank you. Director's comments. Vice President Martin.
Nothing further.
Director Duncan.
No, ma'am, not today.
Director Grasha.
Yes, ma'am. I have one thing. I attended or I watched the Desert Water Agency board meeting on Tuesday, and it was fascinating. There apparently is a problem with the Colorado River Aqueduct. They've had to do some emergency work, shutting it down and diverting the flow into the desert. They have, I took the time to look up, get a copy of the contract that DWA has with MWD. It allows them to put 900,000 acre feet of water in storage in our aquifer. 900,000 acre feet amounts to 1 mile wide from Los Angeles to New Orleans, a foot deep. It's a lot of water. It's a larger amount of storage capacity than the entire system that MWD has in place combined. So Lake Matthews and Diamond Valley Lake does not equal to what they're dumping in our desert right now. And with the amount of salinity involved with that and the lack of studies, that there has been no reports.
Steve, excuse me, there's something on the screen right now that's not supposed to be there.
I'm not doing it, I don't think.
Somebody's playing. What's somebody doing?
That's Tom Slovak, and he's shared his screen. On it.
Oh,
Oh, is he telling me to shut up?
yeah.
I don't know.
Better get it
But
off there, Tom.
I'm convinced that it's some of these issues are so alarming that you know, we might serve the community well by discussing.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So anyway, alarming. Yeah, there you see.
We can hear you, Tom.
So alarming stuff going on in terms of the perspective of what's happening. And
Can you hear me?
Yes, Tom, we can hear you.
Can you hear us is the question. Tom,
So-
can you hear us? Anyway, so go ahead, Steve. I don't know if he can hear us is the problem.
So we're going into closed session, and I just wanted to point out these new things that I'm learning, and I'm looking forward to learning more. And it occurred to me that that's a value to the community, not our community. It takes away from our community, but a benefit to the people of Southern California, the Metropolitan Water District,
now.
of more than $3 billion. That you want me to shut up?
No. They're just trying to tell Tom.
So these are things, because I saw Arden waving his hands too. It looked
That,
like.
I think you're doing it for Tom. Yeah, I think.
Oh,
I was just
Anyway,
waving at Tom.
there's many things being mixed in here, very important subject, and I think it's worthy of a study session. I think I have enough understanding.
Kind of, well, yeah, Arden can tell you about that program. Yeah, they're banking some of that water, and so they tell the valley,
Can you
or
hear me
tell
now?
us, our state water contractors, we're putting in so many thousand or 100,000 whatever acre feet into the basin. So and when we then get our replenishment water, they tell us to kick it off from what's in the ground already. So sometimes we might not get imported water because of that program. But anyway, it's an interesting program. So I don't think they have, I'm not sure. I think it was only 600,000.
It's why you're suing, I think. It's more than
They
interesting.
have 600,000, I believe, acre feet in the basin right now. I don't know if they put any more in since then. So.
Good. I'm glad you're aware of
Anyway.
it. It's unfortunate that you don't discuss it publicly, because very enlightening, and the public would get so much.
We have many times. This has been going on for years and years.
I know. I
Anyway,
understand that,
okay,
but-
thank you.
But because it has such a negative effect on the people that live and have investments in the valley, I would think that it would be something that would be at the top of your agenda every month, and not buried away in the lawyer's office, never to be heard from until there's a court hearing. And then, and only then, and only the people in that courtroom are made aware of the disastrous effects of this policy. With that, I thank you, and I'll return it to you. Thank you very much for the time.
That was our state water contractor. That was theirs entire decision. Anyway, okay, so we now will be going into closed session. Dory, what about we come back out and do the improvement core after closed session, correct?
We can handle it however you'd like. You
Can
can
we
do
do it
closed
now?
session and then you can come back out, or yeah, we can break from this meeting, do the improvement core, adjourn
we
that
talked-
meeting, and then go into closed session.
Okay,
John,
I
do
think
you
we
have
talked about.
any
Pardon?
suggestions on how that should be handled?
We talked about doing it either way. Probably, maybe, why don't we just get it done now? So people don't have to hang around if they want to hear what this is about.
I would suggest that.
Okay, so John, help me on this, Mr. Pinkney. I don't adjourn our board meeting. What do I do?
You're just going to recess the board meeting temporarily and
Okay.
convene the other meeting.
Okay,
Brian,
I'm
you do a
now
different
gonna,
one?
going to recess our regular board meeting of April 19th. And I will now call to order the Improvement Corporation Annual Meeting of Mission Springs Water District. Roll call, please. I guess it's not on here, but maybe we should do it. anyway.
There's no roll call for this meeting and there's no public present.
Okay, thank you. So I will entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes of April 20th, 2020.
So move.
I'll second it.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Director Sewell,
Yes.
Director Gracia,
Yes.
Director Duncan,
Yes.
Vice President Martin,
Yes.
President Wright.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, long-term debt. I'm going to turn that over to the general manager. Do we have a little report on what's next here?
I'm going to refer that to Matt.
Good afternoon, Madam President. This is our annual formal meeting for the Improvement Corporation. There's only one piece of debt that is related to and or issued through the Improvement Corporation. It is the debt that is from the USDA, and it was related to some work done early this century, around the turn of the century, in Improvement District E, which is the western part of our district, and everything else is covered in the agenda as far as the facts.
Thank you. Turn of the century. My goodness, that does sounds like it was a long time ago. Anyway, okay, so it's recommendation to receive and file the following report. Improvement Corporation was, that's what, basically what Matt just said. So I will entertain a motion to receive and file the report.
I would move that we receive and file the report as submitted.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Director Sewell,
Yes, we do vote on this, don't we? Okay.
Director Sewell, yes.
Yes.
Director Gracia,
Yes.
Director Duncan,
Yes.
Vice President Martin. He will abstain.
Yes.
And President Wright.
Yes, I heard him yell.
Thank you, Director Martin. Vice President Martin and President Wright.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay, so thank you. I will now adjourn the Improvement Corporation Annual Meeting of 2021. And I will reconvene our regular board meeting of April 19th, 2021. And we will now be going into closed session. So I guess we leave this meeting and we will go into it. There we go.
So there's the
Join.
prompt for all of us that are going into closed session to join. Tom, you need to push the wrong button. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Go ahead.
So the board met in closed session. First item was conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1. One case, PSC 1600676, Mission Springs Water District versus Desert Water Agency. There was no reportable action taken on that item. The second item was conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1. Attorney Tom Slovak from my office attended the closed session as well. That's one case, RIC 2003782, and that's George Padilla and Sharon Marino versus Mission Springs Water District. There was no reportable action taken on that item either. And that's a report out from closed session.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a good, what's today? Today's Monday. I can't say have a good weekend, but have a good week.
Thank you.
Officially adjourned.
Is there any taken in there?
Adjourned.